Three, two, one. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Dynasty Key 3 Fantasy Football Podcast, where we talk about everything such as Dynasty Fantasy Football. Today, we're going to have a mailbag session, so I'm pretty excited about that. Unfortunately, today, though, we are missing Sanatan. He cannot be with us. Damn sick kids, but we do have Trenton here. How you doing today, Trenton?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
Just another day here in paradise, raining all here in good old Massachusetts. Nothing to complain about, indeed. Oh, yeah. So, I'm going to start breaking down the questions. That's good with you?
That sounds fine.
Awesome. So, I'm going to ask you here and start it off. And I'm going to ask you, sleeper user Vikings. That's Vikings with a 1 instead of the first I to clear everything up. He asked the value of Corey Davis. What's your kind of take on Corey Davis and his value?
Corey Davis, and I talk about this in the rookie episode we do as well, because they have A.J. Brown there now. So Brown is going to take some of those targets and catches from him. And I honestly feel like Corey Davis is still that number one, but I'll say this again in the rookie episode as well. That quarterback situation isn't the best. You have Marcus Mariota, who is a very, very often on quarterback. He is nowhere near one of the great quarterbacks in the league. In that situation, being a number 2 wide receiver, I'm just thinking, for the number 2 for AJ Brown, I'm thinking that's kind of off. Corey Davis, though, value-wise, I'd draft him as maybe a mid-tier wide receiver 3, because I can put a lot of guys ahead of him. That'd probably be around where I'd draft him. I'm not certain, but yeah, I'm just not too sold on him. I'd probably, in a 12-man league, I'd probably pick him around 4th, 5th round, maybe 6th.
Okay. That's fair for me. Corey Davis is an interesting guy because if you want to sell him, you're not going to get much. And if you want to buy him, he's going to be overpriced. I mean, AJ Brown just landing there is nice in theory because he can kind of help the offense move. Great wide receiver. My wide receiver 2 pre-draft. But yeah, his value tanked. We'll talk about that more during the rookie session. But overall, I think it's bad because I thought you already had Humphreys there who could move the chains. I prefer Humphreys or A.J. Brown to be there, not both, because I just don't see the targets with a run-first offense. Granted, Derrick Henry can't catch, but Dion Lewis, I'm curious to see how he will be used. So I'd pay a 2021st, a mid-2021st for Corey Davis. Would you do that trade?
A 2021st straight up for Corey Davis?
Yeah. Mid-2021st. Mid to early, how about that?
Mid to early, I'd probably say no, because the 2020 draft, we've said this to each other multiple times.
Oh, yeah.
The 2020 draft is stacked. There's going to be a lot of fantasy talent coming out of that draft, and I'm more excited for those young players coming out and the potential to grab one of those young studs than I am of Corey Davis. Corey Davis is in a pretty good situation as a wide receiver 1, but I just really am not a huge fan of the situation that he's in with his quarterback situation. It's shaky at best. Sure, Marcus Mariota is nowhere near the worst quarterback in the league. I don't even think he's one of the bottom 8 quarterbacks in the league, but he's nowhere near a top 12 quarterback in the league. He's right in that middle tier where it gets kind of iffy. And if he had better quarterback situation, sure, I would probably take that deal because I like his skill set. But with Mariota, that really pulls down his stock for me, and I'd honestly be more excited with grabbing a 2020 rookie with a better offense.
And the 2020 class could, of course, disappoint as well. I mean, that's something that it could do. It's so hyped up right now. You got to remember in 2019 too. I mean, Bryce Love, Rodney Anderson, these were all early first-round picks we thought we were going to have in rookie drafts, and they went through awful situations and are 3rd round, 4th round picks. So a lot can change. but with how much talent, especially at the running back position, I recently, going through the rankings, found out like a whole bunch of different like players, and I tried to see who would I take as the 101 this year. I had 7 players I would take over Josh Jacobs and N'Keal Harry at 101 this year. So it's a great class. You can get a really, really great player. But moving on here, another player that recently moved in our league, the FFA league, thanks to me, Diontae Foreman. What's the value on him for you?
Foreman, I like him more than most, but I don't really like him excessively much. Of course, he's still behind Lamar Miller there in Houston. Houston's O-line has never been that great, and it's just I think he definitely has the potential to take Lamar Miller's role, like maybe midway through the season. He has that talent, but I'm still scared about that line in front of him. And if the Texans line can prove itself, Foreman's value would skyrocket for me. But at this given time, I am not really high on him. I'd say potentially give him around in a dynasty startup draft, maybe 11th round, 11th, 12th round is about where I'd think to take him.
Yeah, I think that's completely fair. In our league, I try to sell him because I was trying to collect assets to just move. So I tried to move Foreman around. I talked to a couple people, and I was trying to sell him for like a mid 2020 second. I don't want to sell him for a late because he has tremendous upside, right? He could be the RB1 on an improved Houston line, Deshaun Watson offense, DeAndre Hopkins. We know it all, right? Good defense. He could have massive, massive upside. This could be like your James Conner of the year if something happens to Miller, who's been very durable though, and that's also part of that problem. But I'd say I'd give him up for like a mid 2020 second. I'd take him around that spot you said just because of the upside. That's the type of RB I do want on my team. But when I try to shop him for a mid 2020 second, nobody would bite. So I don't know. Is that just the hype of 2020? Is that just because everyone's so low based on the Achilles?
Right.
Something interesting here.
And it's Foreman. I definitely could see him being a great running back, but that's a big if with Lamar Miller. If Lamar Miller goes down, then you have the if he can pick up the slack, if he can stay healthy himself. There's a lot of question marks around his game, and I love him. I really think he's a talented back. I thought he was a talented back scouting him coming out of college, but I think in dynasty leagues, he's more of a stash for a couple of years guy, see where it plays out.
Mm-hmm.
He's not one of those backs that you draft and start him right away. He's not a back that you can plug into your lineup and be confident that he'll go out there and get your points. Until we see more of him,
yep.
He's just a stash player.
Stash. So you'd go buy him out. Would you buy him for a 2020 first? 2022nd, sorry, 2022nd.
For 2022nd, it'd be depending on if it's a high 2022nd, definitely not, because there's so much talent next year that I feel like you can get a first round caliber player in that high second round. But for a late 2022nd, I would consider it because Lamar Miller, I'm not sure how much longer he has on his contract. I believe it's just a couple of years. But after that, Foreman is their guy unless they go out there and get another back. Lamar Miller is on his final year of his deal. And they could re-sign him, sure, but I think they'll settle and stick with Foreman and ride Foreman because he's the younger. I think he has more talent than Miller. And
I agree.
It's just the question of how much you value that 2020 draft class. If you really think that you can get a guy in the late second round that could turn into a starter on your team, keep that pick. But if you're not as sold on that draft class, like I'm somewhat sold, I think you can get those first round players in the second round.
Mhm.
But the late second round is where it gets really iffy, even in the 2020 class, which is really deep. And I would honestly, I might take that deal, just because I like that upside of Foreman.
Yeah.
He's next year. He's more than likely going to be their starting back. Houston, even though their offensive line isn't the good, they've always run mainly one running back scheme. They have rarely ever done a running back by committee, and they always ride that one running back. So I really like his upside, but it's all about how much you value.
Yeah, 100%. And I want to thank Joy Perone for sending in that question. Diontae Foreman, definitely one of the greatest lottery tickets. It comes down to the health with the Achilles. Maybe they grab somebody in 2020 with that stacked RB class. Definitely interesting guy. That price tag is very, very interesting for me as well. Next question here comes from our old friend. We call him Derg, aka Nick Pick, in our FFA league, and he asked us the value of Diontae Thompson, I believe third round wide receiver out of Toledo, going to the Pittsburgh Steelers. What do we think about that trend?
Diontae Johnson, I am actually pretty high on. I've read a lot of good reports. I've seen a few of his game tapes. I think he could be not really top tier, but he could be a really valuable player in the NFL. I think Juju, of course, is going to be the Antonio Brown's replacement, but I could see Diontae taking over as Juju's replacement when Juju goes up to the Antonio Brown wide receiver 1 level. I could see Johnson being the wide receiver 2 by the end of the year. He's a smaller guy, of course, so he'd be more of a slot guy. But the thing he does best, from what I've seen, is he runs routes really well. And wide receivers that can run routes tend to do really, really well in the league. And I feel like he's in a really good situation in Pittsburgh, where we saw, of course, Juju come in and flourish as the wide receiver 2. And I could see, I mean, sure, he could put up pretty good numbers this year, but I could see in year 2 that Diontae could be actually a pretty good value pick and could blow up some leagues, be a lottery ticket. And in Dynasty wise, I value him. I think I might take him with a high second, because I like the the situation he got placed in and his surroundings and what his potential is.
Diontae Thompson, I think I looked at my board this morning when we were asked this question, right? And I was kind of like, Diontae Thompson, I have him too low, man. I have him as like a third round rookie pick. That's a value also. You take that. In reality, he's probably a mid to late second pick for me. You look at his profile and player profile, right? And I mean, he had like a good college dominator rating, 63rd percentile, right? That's kind of the best thing there, other than the college yards per reception, 16.4. Explosive playmaker, right? So quantitatively, he's almost already 23, which I like if you're talking about immediate value, which these later round picks I think is more important because, obviously like a third round pick, stash him for a couple years, he could be out of the league. Let's just be honest. So for me, he kind of reminds me a little bit of AB with play style, so I like that schematic fit. But he's not AB. Let's not be dumb here. He is not AB. He probably will never be AB, but he could play a role similar to AB. So that interests me overall, and I don't mind taking that with that mid-second round rookie pick. I personally would rather have somebody like an Arcega-Whiteside, who I recently traded for. By the way, and I love Whiteside's talent. His profile is pretty complete, nice breakout age, college dominator rating, he went to an offense, right, that specializes on third down in the red zone, his two best skills. So my question for you, Trenton, is would you rather have Whiteside? Would you rather have Diontae Johnson, sorry. Diontae Johnson. Hold on, let me clear that up. All right, you can go now.
I would honestly rather have Whiteside because I love his upside more. I think he has more talent overall than Johnson. He's a better receiver that I scouted. He was the better receiver coming out. But and he's also a lot bigger than Johnson and can make his own plays. He'll go up there and grab those 50-50 balls. He has that red zone threat capability. He will get those touchdowns. And Johnson, I like him. He could take on that lesser Antonio Brown role. But Whiteside, I just think with the Eagles, with Carson Wentz, a young quarterback who he can grow and develop with, compared to Pittsburgh, where you have Big Ben, who is getting up there and who will be out of the league within the next few years, more than likely. And I feel like Whiteside has that better continuity with Wentz. And I love Diontae Johnson. I have him in our one of our leagues. I believe the FFA league. I drafted him in our rookie draft. But overall, I think Whiteside has the higher upside.
100%. Whiteside could really come in, be that team's wide receiver one by year 3. When we talk about a wide receiver, for me, he's a late first. And coming in there as maybe a second-round ADP, I think that's great because wide receivers tend to break out year 3 anyways, unless they're like truly, truly special, which I think he has the talent to be. But with that situation, he won't be. But that's fine because by the year 3, Jackson will probably be gone. Alshon Jeffrey will probably be gone. Who the heck's there? They spent second-round draft capital on. He could be like the wide receiver one, maybe the number 1 target, depending on Ertz's health, Goddard living up to potential. So I like him. But I want to transition here quickly.
But before we do this, I just want to say both of those players, in my eyes, are more of stash for a couple years players. They're taxi squad players year 1. I think that they're not going to come in and start and dominate right away. You can get in late first round, you could get maybe one of the tight ends in Hawkinson or Fant, who will be that team's tight end 1 and will come in right away and help you. If your team is looking for a championship this year, you need those guys that can help you this year. You don't want either of those 2 guys. But if you're willing to wait it out for a few years, put them on your taxi squad, I feel like both of them could pan out really well. But both of them are not options for year 1.
100% no. That's a weak class too, so these guys may be even lower. Like that's how Whiteside is late first because the class just isn't good. But now we're going to transition from some other rookie wide receivers into another rookie wide receiver here in Marquise Hollywood Brown. Once again, thank you, Nick Pick, for that last question. Trent Roberts, stranger to the podcast. Just kidding. Wanted us to talk about Hollywood Brown's value. So why don't you tell us why you wanted to talk about it over here a little bit?
I love Marquise Brown's ADP. I love the player. I believe he's going early second round. And if you look at the wide receivers in this draft class, if you're looking for a wide receiver that can help year 1, help you push for that championship right away, Marquise Brown is that guy. Sure, you have N'Keal Harry who might go ahead of him, but that's the first or second pick right there. And Harry, you could get Marquise Brown who comes in at say pick 14, 15, who will come in right away and help you out. Well, here's why. Look at that Ravens offense. Who do they have at wide receiver? Willie Snead. I think they still have maybe John Brown. I'm not sure about that.
Yeah. They also added That one guy, right? The third round guy, right? What's his name?
Oh, right. Yeah, but honestly, that's how bad it is. You can't even remember the names of most of their
I
wide
don't know.
receivers.
Matt Waldman. You know Matt Waldman. He loves
Miles
him.
Boykin, I believe.
Yeah, Miles
right?
Boykin. Yeah,
Right.
Matt Waldman. Oh God, Matt Waldman. Don't get me started. Continue. I'm sorry.
But I think he's coming in right away. I mean, sure, he's out for OTAs, but I think he comes in and he is their wide receiver one. You're getting a team's wide receiver one, their top option at receiver, with the 15th, 14th pick in your rookie draft. That's insane. I mean, of course, Lamar Jackson, everybody picks on him for not being the best quarterback. He's not really an elite passer,
No.
but he will develop. He can develop, and he's very, very, very young. These two, this combination of wide receiver quarterback will grow together. It's like looking back. I mean, sure, it's a horrible comparison because I'm comparing him to a fantastic quarterback in the league. But look at Andrew Luck and T.Y. Hilton. Both were taken in the 2012 draft, and Hilton was a third-round pick. And right now, as the team's wide receiver one, he is a top 10 wide receiver in the league because those two developed together so well. Those two grew together. They were together throughout their careers, and they work with each other every single day throughout their careers, pretty much. I think that same thing could happen with Lamar Jackson and Marquise Brown. Marquise Brown is a very sneaky, strong pick for me. He can help year one. He can help year three. I think he will have a really good career there with Lamar Jackson once Lamar Jackson figures out throwing a bit better. But I really, really like his ADP because he's going early second round, and he is a wide receiver one for his team. He is the top wide receiver for his team. You don't find that ever. And that's just why I love where he's at right now.
Yeah, I think that's fair. This is the first time I can remember, and ever, that we have the first wide receiver drafted in the NFL draft going in the second round of rookie drafts. That's crazy.
Right.
That's so crazy. Because, all right, Marquise Brown. Pre-draft, I think I had him as a mid to late first. I looked at my big board, and I have him at 112. I actually had him at a second round pick. But your argument made me move him up against Whiteside, which I think I'd obviously have Brown over Whiteside. Pretty high Whiteside guy. But just because immediate value. He is someone who could definitely contribute year one. My problem now is Lamar Jackson just showed no progression throughout the season as a passer. Very minimal progression. I won't say none, because that's rude, but very minimal progression. Let's just keep it a buck, right? He didn't really impress me at all. The passing attempts were low. There was rumors around. I heard news that they completely changed the offense and he was struggling and they had no idea. Dude, what are you doing? What the heck, man? Lamar Jackson, I don't trust it. And by the time they could get a new quarterback, because I don't think Lamar Jackson's Michael Vick, because he has strong arms, he can't get off his first progression. Man, he looks so bad on film. But I'm not even a film guy. I don't even need to be a film guy. But it's the Ravens effect of Lamar Jackson. And by the time they could get a new quarterback, hypothetically here, I don't think they will for a while. I don't know. Hollywood's value is already in the toaster, and you can just pick him up late for a second, a third, maybe. So I'm not too high on him. I do like what I see on film. Metrics were a bit concerning. I'm also concerned about the Lisfranc injury I believe he had. Very serious foot injury. Naga's career, definitely, in my opinion, just having that injury. So overall, with the injury concerns, the size concerns, this guy's 20 pounds lighter than Tyreek Hill. And that's a controversial name right now. Tyreek Hill is a little built, to be fair. I think he's 185, but 165. I weigh more than 165. So,
but here's the thing, though. Are you ever going to find a wide receiver with that ADP who I think if you're drafting startup draft this year, I believe in Dynasty, he's going 18th to 20th round. And, of course, in rookie drafts, he's going second, third round.
Third
He
round?
is-
What leagues are you in? Wait, time out. What leagues are you in, and when can I join? He should not be going third round.
I've seen it happen a couple times, which I
That's
was stunned
crazy,
by.
man.
But
Wow.
you're never going to find a wide receiver like that in the 18th through 20th round or second round rookie drafts where Marquise Brown is, or you find a guy like Marquise Brown who is a team's number one wide receiver. He's their number one option. Who else will Lamar Jackson throw to?
Nobody.
Exactly.
Because he doesn't throw.
Well, but see,
I
when he does throw, who's he going to throw to? His
Mark
number
Andrews?
one wide receiver. Mark Andrews, yes. Hayden Hurst, yes. But Marquise Brown is that number one wide receiver. You can get it's crazy to me that you can get a team's number one wide receiver in the 18th through 20th round or second round rookie drafts. And he's going to have that instant impact.
100% he can.
It's crazy how his ADP is.
Yeah. I think he's a good value. I just don't like it. And before you're like a team's number one wide receiver, Corey Davis. The grave of Corey Davis. It's just kidding. It's not a grave yet. Or how about Josh Doxson? Granted, he didn't come in as the number one, but just because you're a number one with a pretty bad situation doesn't mean you're going to produce. And Lamar Jackson, just if we remove the running game, just talk about strictly a thrower. Oh my God, he's bad. So for me, I like the value because I agree with everything you said. Great value at 2-1, 201, 1-12. Take him there. Pretty confident about it. But anything before that, he no longer becomes a value, and I'm not interested because I don't like the situation. And I wasn't too high on the talent to begin with.
Sure, it's a bad situation, but you have Lamar Jackson is a really young, still developing quarterback. He could develop a really good. He could develop into a passer. He could be able to pass. We just haven't seen it yet. But the thing is, you can get his number one wide receiver for years to come that late in the draft. It is a nice value. Insane. It's a fantastic value. Sure, I won't draft him higher because I still have guys ahead of him, but that's a fantastic value if you need help year one. He can potentially be your bye week fill-in in year one, and he's going in the second round.
Yeah, definitely. For those rebuilding teams with that 201, or maybe those just champion contenders who just won the league with the 112, definitely something both sides of the spectrum should look into. I feel like Marquise Brown fits any team. So definitely someone interesting. And he'll be controversial throughout the whole offseason with Raven haters, Raven supporters like Sanatan, who's not with us today here, unfortunately. But, all right, I want to wrap up all those values by saying thank you to all those people who submitted those questions. We're going to get into some trade talks now and a little bit of player this or that. So stay tuned. We're going to talk about some David Montgomery versus Miles Sanders. We're going to talk about some Chris Godwin, Marlon Mack, Amari Cooper. And we're going to start off here with a massive trade that happened in my league that you're not a part of, but like all of your friends are a part of, but you. I don't know what that says, but hopefully you'll get in soon. I just don't think you were there when we started it up, but this happened yesterday. 12-man, 1 point per reception. Our good friend Nathan Batty sent over Michael Thomas and Keenan Allen, all for Christian McCaffrey. What do you think about them apples?
Mike Thomas and
Keenan Allen. 1 point per reception, just for Christian McCaffrey. No, like, player back, just Christian McCaffrey, straight up.
See, if it wasn't...
What a tough trade, am I right? It sparked some controversy.
Honestly, that's a decent trade. I don't know what to say about it because I don't know, honestly can't tell you which side won.
Yeah.
I love McCaffrey. McCaffrey and PPR will probably, in my eyes, will probably be the RB1 or RB2 this year overall. But you have Mike Thomas, who will be a wide receiver 1. You have Keenan Allen, if healthy, will be a wide receiver 1, albeit not necessarily the top wide receiver. And running backs have higher value in today's game because you don't find them late.
Yeah.
But if I had to pick one, I'd go the Michael Thomas and Keenan Allen side because you're getting 2 for the price of 1. You're getting 2 very good starting options for the price of 1. And that just, if anything, that improves your depth substantially for the wide receiver position. If you have a rough running back situation behind McCaffrey, hold McCaffrey. But straight up, if you're doing fine at running back, you're doing fine at wide receiver, you're just looking for upgrades, I would take the Mike Thomas and Keenan Allen because those are 2 guys compared to 1 who will put up numbers every week, and it'll give you more depth, it'll give you more options, it'll give you more potential to make more trades with those players and with players who are now depth on your team to get even better. And I did similar stuff all the time earlier this year in our fantasy football advice league. I did like 2-for-1s in which I got 2 good players for the price of 1, and then I ended up flipping some players who were starting on my team but are now just depth options, flipping them plus of another few people for really other starting options. And it's just all about what your value is. If it's your team value, do you need running backs? Do you need wide receivers? That's where that trade separates. But overall, if you're a fine team, that's a fair trade either way.
Yeah. I want to give you some more context here, and I'm going to give my analysis on it. So for the team that got McCaffrey, now he needed an RB1. He had Nick Chubb as RB1, fine RB1, but he's trying to compete this year. So Nick Chubb ain't going to cut it by the playoffs time. I think he won't do as well.
Right.
And his second running back is Diontae Foreman, and that was it. So he got Christian McCaffrey. But he's pretty solid wide receivers. He has Amari Cooper, DJ Moore, Chris Godwin, and then Quincy Enunwa, which isn't as good, but he already had 3 solid wide receivers. Also has a good tight end, Hunter Henry. So he's competitive.
And he still has that after getting rid of Mike Thomas and Keenan Allen. So I feel like that's a pretty
good trade for
wide receiver room. Yeah. And he needed help at running back, obviously. So, yeah, that's a great trade for him.
Yeah, 100%. I think he kind of wins based off of need. I would have preferred to give something up like a Michael Thomas and DJ Moore, or a Michael Thomas and Chris Godwin, or I would have tried to at least get some type of running back.
Right.
Or you know what I mean. I would have been trying to. I do think the longevity here normally I factor that in with wide receivers. I don't think that matters here because Keenan Allen's like 27. Michael Thomas, 25, 26, somewhere around there. And Christian
Thomas is 25 or 24 or 25 even. I don't know.
He's 25. I'm pretty confident he's 25. And then CMAC's like 22, 23. So they're going to have similar lifespans, especially since CMAC kind of has the pass catching. So he doesn't need to have that much of a workload, but he's getting it. In his body, hopefully he puts some more muscle because he's going to need it. Personally, I see CMAC as the last of that top tier. He's the one I'm most least confident about. Wow, what a word, am I right? But for me, he just had a ridiculous snap count, and that's gonna go down. Same thing happened with Kareem Hunt, but Kareem Hunt started getting hot before he got eventually cut from the Chiefs. So I could see something similar. So I don't hate McCaffrey. I just think I'd rather have the other 3. But still, I do think for the other side here, for the other person here, Cameron. Looking at his situation for running backs, now he has Lev Bell, Tariq Cohen, which is bad. But if you look at it, he has OBJ, Keenan Allen, Michael Thomas, Travis Kelce, Anthony Miller, and I believe this is John Brown, and Kyler Murray starting at quarterback. So he has a really nice wide receiver core to build around.
Right.
But the running backs suck, and it almost feels like he almost kind of needs to rebuild, but doesn't. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because he has some
he
really
has
bad starters. in there.
really. He has. I think. Who were his wide receivers again?
OBJ, Keenan Allen, Michael Thomas, and then it drops to John Brown and Anthony Miller. Maybe someone's on IR. Jimmy G is on IR, but that's about it looking here through his squad. He also has Tevin Coleman at running back, so that's probably his RB2.
Okay. Yeah, Tevin Coleman I like, but Mike Thomas, OBJ, Keenan Allen, if all are healthy, all play really well.
Studs.
Those will be 3 of your top 8 wide receivers this season. So that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with that. Overall, I think I'd rather have the Thomas Keenan sign. I think it's a little safer. I'm also a little lower on most than McCaffrey. If you count 104, and I agree his own tier, excuse me, English, important language, as low, then I guess. But I do think it helped out Nathan here more than it helped out Cameron. Keep in mind that Nathan got McCaffrey and Cameron got Michael Thomas, Keenan Allen. So I think it helps him more. But oddly, I feel like Cameron was able to come away and start to break down his team for a potential rebuild. But you can also still see what the heck happens this year because you never know. Injuries could ruin a team. So thank you very, very much for that question. Moving on, and that question was also by Nick Pick, by the way. That's not actually his name. That's his nickname. That's our nickname. That's our nickname that we give him. So let's take a breath here and let's move on. This is a trade I saw here from Tom O'Brien, and he sent me a whole bunch of trades, and I picked one out that I thought was interesting. So one team sent over Amari Cooper, and the other team got N'Keal Harry and Parris Campbell. What are your thoughts on that?
Amari Cooper for N'Keal Harry and Parris Campbell?
Parris Campbell, yep.
I like the Amari Cooper side. Because that's a proven guy who, sure, he will... I don't think he's going to be as good this year once people start figuring him out. Once Dak starts to figure out reading plays more often. Because I said a couple days ago when we were just chatting that Cooper is in this weird situation where Dak Prescott is a good quarterback, but he's only good at read and reacts immediately. And Amari Cooper isn't that really top-tier route runner that can stay open. He just gets open, and then after a few seconds, he's covered again.
Yeah.
So I feel like as time goes on, Amari Cooper will do worse overall, but still, he's the proven guy. And sure, N'Keal Harry may come in and blow up with the Pats. Parris Campbell could do really well with the Colts. But when it comes to picking rookies versus proven players, 99% of the time I'll take the proven player because I know what I'm getting and I'm more confident in knowing what I can get rather than hoping or depending on a rookie doing real well.
Yeah, 100%. The reason why I chose this one in particular is because there's a trade that happened that I did with Nathan, who we just talked about earlier, in a different league where I was very bad. My team was awful. It was probably 70-80% sure I was going to be the 101 that year. And I sent him over. Back then, this was when Amari Cooper was still in Oakland, and he was god-awful, right? We can all agree. He was just pretty bad. Like, he'd put up, like, a good game, then a bad game. Headache, right? You just want to get rid of this guy. So I sent him over for what ended up being the 101 in Quincy Enunwa. And looking back on that, I wouldn't do that trade. But here's the important thing to understand with trades, is it's not necessarily like one trade, because what I did with that 101 is I traded it down and got a crap ton back. Kind of a massive trade in our league. I got a huge haul from somebody who really wanted to move up to grab, I believe it's David Montgomery. So overall, you got to kind of look at trades like that. And that's just something I wanted to mention. But overall, I agree with you. The only reason I wouldn't agree with you is if you're a rebuilding team who needs wide receivers desperately.
Right.
And in that case, I do think N'Keal Harry in like 1 to 2 years could be like a higher wide receiver than Amari Cooper, genuinely. The kid's super talented, and he fits the NFL really well. Because even though it's not a big man NFL and it's super separation focused, this kid has an insane yards after the catch and insane hands to be able to make these really special catches. Drop rate is average, but he's just so special, N'Keal Harry, and that's why he's my 101 because there's nobody else like him in this draft. He's literally the best player in this draft on a good situation, on a team that has like a little less than 200 targets open, that's still passed, even though it's quote run heavy and run focused, passed the 9th most in the NFL last year, and even that trend continues. What are you talking about? The 12th most pass attempts in the NFL? Really good, right? A pass heavy offense in that case. And I think they could pass more or equal to this year because even though Tom Brady's getting older, they have like the worst weapons in the NFL. It almost felt like at times. I mean, Cordell Patterson and Phillip Dorsett would be like 2 out of your 3 wide receivers on the field. That's awful.
And we've had this argument before with Tom Brady, which that one was fun. But yes, he's getting older.
Yeah.
And I give him maximum 3 more years in the league, probably
2.
1 or 2. He could be gone as early as next year, and then you don't know what's after him. I'm confident in the Pats finding another quarterback.
Yeah.
Because Belichick is one of the greatest to ever do it. But there's also the question, does Belichick stay with the team or does he leave with Brady? But if he stays with the team, I feel like they could grab another quarterback and that they can develop that quarterback into a viable starting option. But I don't know if they can get another Tom Brady.
No way they're going to get another Tom Brady. There's only one GOAT as for now. And there may not ever be another GOAT. It may take 20, 30 years, or it could never happen because the Patriots dynasty has been incredible, and you can't discredit Brady for that. But what I will say to like the Patriots haters, the people who talk down the Patriots, right? For me, my point is the Patriots aren't going to become the new Browns just when Tom Brady's gone. Like they aren't going to become this crap team that can't find a quarterback for 10 years. And I think that's how people treat it. I honestly think Bill's going to stay because with some reports going around, Bill and Tom weren't like buddy best friends, right? They kind of like hurt each other's legacy a little bit of like, oh, they need each other. So wouldn't surprise me if Bill tries to come along, and it even wouldn't surprise me because he's tutoring McDaniels, who left your Colts. I'm so sorry. Came with us, won another Super Bowl. I mean, I don't know who won that side. You guys ended up a lot better with Frank Reich.
I'm fine with Reich.
Yeah, I think it worked out for everybody in that case. But he's currently mentoring him. So what I do hope next year in that good 2020 class, Bill picks his guy because McDaniels picked freaking Tim Tebow. So I'm scared if McDaniels picks the quarterback. But if it's Bill Belichick, I have full faith. And Jarrett Stidham, by the way, 4th round pick. I don't put much stock into it. But like this guy's freshman and even sophomore years, we're talking about him maybe being a 1st round pick if he take that next step. Unfortunately, he took a step back. But I still think the kid's talented. He kind of reminds me of Jimmy G a little bit with some of the things he can do. He has incredible intangibles, stuff he can't teach. So overall, and I think Parris Campbell's a nice guy. We both like Parris Campbell, my wide receiver 3. I think your wide receiver 3, wide receiver 2 in rookie draft, somewhere around there. But overall, I'd take Cooper unless you're like hardcore rebuilding and need stuff. So let's move on here.
But I want to go back real quick. You brought up Tim Tebow. Yeah. Tim Tebow is not a bad quarterback. He never was a bad quarterback. Mm-hmm. Tim Tebow mania. Tim Tebow took the Broncos to the playoffs, won a game, and then proceeded to lose his job the next season to Peyton Manning. If you're gonna tell me that give me one quarterback in the league that if your team signed Peyton Manning, who would still be starting?
Thomas, Edward, Patrick, Brady.
Maybe.
I like how I said it all.
Maybe, but I think I don't know, but it'd be a toss up between those two. But he would start for every single other team in the league. Probably the Patriots, I think, but it's iffy there. But it's just Tebow lost his job to one of the greats, and there's just no way he's going to come back from that. He's known for losing his job to Peyton Manning, but everybody forgets that he was a great quarterback for some time for the Broncos.
He reminds me of Dak a little, but not great. But he was okay. But
Right.
once he was out of Denver, he just sucks. So that's in my opinion why he sucked. Complete bust. You can't argue. He's a bust. He might have not been bad when he's there, but bust.
Most people can compare Tebow Mania to like the NBA equivalent of Linsanity.
Oh, Linsanity.
But I think that Jeremy Lin, sure, he's still a good point guard, but that was just a one-hit wonder. Tebow, I feel like he could have continued doing what he did, and he could have continued to be a good quarterback in the league for some time. It's just that he never got the chance because Peyton Manning.
HGH, big forehead. No, I'm kidding. Moving on before we get people heated here. No, I don't hate the Colts. Not at all. Actually, I'm just a big Patriots fan. But moving on here, we're going to quickly talk this trade here. We have 3 more questions here. This is from my good old friend here on Sleeper, Obi-Sean Kenobi 91. Gotta say it all. People know where he is in case he's on Sleeper. Give him that shout out here. But his trade was he got offered this. I don't know which side he is, which is good, so we can't be biased here. But the trade was Chris Godwin and a 2020 second for Marlon Mack. I already know where you're gonna go, but go ahead and say it.
Okay, now, okay. That's a decent trade, but it depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking for immediate return, Marlon Mack. If it's no question about it, Marlon Mack, because Mack is a running back 1. He put up great numbers last year in 11 games, and I feel like he could be a fringe RB1, like low-end RB1 this season, put up those numbers. And Godwin, you're just never certain of. Sure, that 2020 second is huge because I love the 2020 class. But at this point in time, you don't know. Is that going to be a late 2020 second, which I'm not very happy about, or an early 2020 second, which is like, okay, yeah, I like that. But it's just for long or for distant future, I would think about it a bit more because you get the pick, you get Godwin, and Mack. You can never be certain how long he's going to be in the league because he's a good running back. But he's good because he's behind that Colts offensive line that is fantastic, probably the best in the league.
Yeah.
But if you could put another better running back there. Marlon Mack is nowhere near one of the best running backs in the league. He's maybe top 15. But I feel like he has that this year they have no running back ever. If you're looking to contend this year, if you want to go to the championship this year, Marlon Mack is your guy. No questions asked. If you're looking to rebuild or maybe looking to wait it out a few years, keep going, get some picks, get some players, you might lean the Godwin side. But personally, I'd still go Marlon Mack because I think he has 3-4 years in him that he will be the starter for the Colts because he is a good enough running back and they have other positions of need that he should start for them for the next 3, 4, maybe 5 years.
Yeah. For me personally, Marlon Mack, Chris Godwin, if it's even a twid to mid, early to mid 2020 second, honestly, I think I'd do the trade. Because Chris Godwin, for me, I think he's going to be this year's Diggs, just with a ton of receptions there in the slot. Arians always beats the slot guys. I think there's enough volume, especially without a pass-catching RB on that team in the Buccaneers, to actually sustain 2 wide receiver ones, kind of like the Vikings did last year. Whenever Dalvin Cook wasn't there, even when he was there, they were still pretty okay there. So, but for me, Marlon Mack, he was one of my buys early, and I still like him as a buy in a redraft, but Dynasty I'm concerned. One, because his 2020 class is so good, I'm telling you. Any of these questionable backs we're thinking about, they could be replaced in a year. They could just be gone. And Marlon Mack, I don't even know if he's a top 15 RB in this league. And just for Dynasty here, I'm going to give a shout out to my guy here at Angelo_fantasy, Angelo FF. We follow each other on Twitter. One of my 15 followers. I love you, bro. But moving on here, to be serious, he's had a thread explaining why Marlon Mack was one of his sells. So I just want to tell you some of his reasons. In 54% of his regular season games, he was held under 4 yards per carry, 6 of those games in 2018. So 1/3 of them that he actually played, which is probably more like 1/2. He was just inconsistent at the running back position. Moving on here, in 65% of his regular season games, he has been held under 35 rushing yards. And it's not like you're getting this kind of pass heavy floor because he only had 3 receptions in a game once. And that didn't come in 2018. And when Hines and Mack are both active, 47 targets for Hines, Mack is 26 targets. I don't know how he can just be this, this high-end RB1 that people keep talking about if he can't catch. This isn't like 2000. This is 2019, man. You need a catch. There's less like 2,000 rushing yard type of seasons here anymore. Last to do it was Adrian Peterson, which was a while ago. This is a pass-heavy league now, and he also has these injury concerns. He has 2 grade 2 hamstring tears, 2 concussions in a span of 2 years, and a torn labrum. Concussions obviously are worrisome because of the risk of soft tissue injury increasing with each one, and then obviously the brain trauma. So thank you, Angelo, for that. Overall, I think Godwin just has tremendous upside. But go ahead, take it away.
The way that 60-some% of his games he was under 35 yards. You have to realize that he's been in the league, I believe, 3 years. This is his. He's going into his 4th season. His first 2 seasons, Frank Gore was the starter. Frank Gore was that workhorse back. Marlon Mack was just their change of pace. So you can't really look at those first couple seasons and say Marlon Mack isn't a good back because of this. You have to look at the ones where he actually started, the games where he actually had consistent snap counts. You have to look at – you can't just look at games in general. You have to look at those snap counts. You have to figure all that out. And it's all comes down to what – and I think Mack is a very underrated back. He's – has a pretty good draft position in a redraft. I think he's 4th round. But I feel like he has a really good draft value, and the Colts have no one else on that roster that's really going to take touches away from him running the ball. And I also want to point this out. Recently, in a press conference with Frank Reich, he said he wanted the Colts this season to be a top 5 rushing team in the NFL. To take them to the next level. And who's going to take those touches away from Mack?
Could be a committee.
Maybe.
Spencer Ware.
Where is a good back?
Ware's just a guy, but I agree with you. He could take touches.
He's the RB4 on that team. He is the RB4 on the Colts roster. You look at that roster, Wilkins. He's the RB4. He's behind Wilkins, behind Hines, who's the pass-catching back, and behind Mack. Mack is that RB1. Hines, sure, will go out there and get some catches. But Mack will be out there for the majority of the running plays. And the Colts are aiming for it to be a top 5 running team. That's just all of that potential for him to put up huge numbers.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from. To answer your question, I pulled up a game log here, so we're going to do some analysis live. So we had 3 really good games in a row after week 5 where he came out on a tear. I remember starting him for won me a very important week that got me into the playoffs. Even though it's just week 8, helping him out with that seeding. He blew up 89, 126, and 132 rushing yards. I killed it. Then bye week happens. So extra week of rest. You figure, okay, he's going to be better. What happens? 12 for 29, 16 for 61, and a rushing touchdown. So, okay, that game. I mean, PPR, you're going to be a little sad because you want more from your running back, but okay. Mad game. We'll call that a mad game. So, crap game. Absolutely, garbage. 29 rushing yards, 2 catches, 9 yards. Garbage, busted. Oh, my God. He probably lost a week. 15 for 85, not bad. 8 for 27. 14 for 33. Then look at this. Classic Marlon Mack. 27 for 139. Next game, 12 for 34. Then 25 for 119. So I don't know what the stats say there, but he even wasn't efficient because in the stat I mentioned earlier, 6 of those games in the 54% of the regular season games under that 4 yards per carry mark, behind the best offensive line in football, one of them. 6 of those games he played in 18. So you can even see he's just inefficient sometimes. And because he doesn't catch passes, his upside's limited and he's inconsistent. He told me he was consistent a couple days ago. I'm like, baloney. He's not consistent when you look at the numbers. And it's because he doesn't catch passes. He's like the Amari Cooper wide receivers, except less talented. So I take the Godwin side. You take the Mack side. If you're win now, I don't mind Mack though. So.
But with that being said, he's that. I say that he's going to be a pretty good running back. I think he'll do really well.
Mm-hmm.
But personally, I would draft him to be my RB2 in leagues because for RB1s, I want that guy who I know will go out there and get me that those points every week, week in, week out. As an RB2, sure, I'll take Mack. I'm happy with Mack. I think Mack will put up good numbers, but he's boom bust. And you can't tell which one's going to be which. I want that consistent guy who's going to be my number one guy who will go out there and put up the big numbers. And then I want Mack who will come in and every few weeks put up a huge stat line and win me some weeks here and there. But I need that guy who will fill in for those weeks that has those down weeks.
Yeah, 100%. So I want to move on here, if that's okay. This question comes in from Joey Perrone. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right. I'm sorry if I don't. And he's like, I got a rookie draft coming up. So I'm curious. And this rookie draft includes free agents. So some interesting free agent names here, surprisingly. Phillip, Lindsay, and Damien Williams are in this rookie draft. Where would you draft them? Like, would you draft them over, I don't know, Montgomery or Sanders? Would you not? Where would you draft these
Phillip
guys?
Lindsay is in this draft. That's insane.
I know, right? I'm like, what?
Lindsay 1-1 or 1-2?
No chance in hell for me. Hell is burning right now if I would do that. No way. I do not trust Phillip Lindsay because the offensive line, I broke it down here a little bit, and this is further confirmed by Nick Urcolano. Hope I'm pronouncing that right too. Who knows? I'm not pronouncing English right, so those names probably are wrong there. But he kind of talked about it, and he showed some stats. I'm not going to talk about it all. I'll let you check out that video. Just overall, the line was way worse for Royce Freeman than it is for Lindsay. And Lindsay had like a great line performance, but then once Royce got in there, he faced stacked boxes a ton. The line just didn't open up holes. It was just really bad, like all the metrics, whatever, right? So I think Royce can come in and maybe steal his job with his new coaching staff and such. Once we get closer to the regular season, if the wrist injury comes out okay, it's just a risk. But if he's not playing out there, Freeman could take the starting job. This is a completely different coaching staff. And so for me, I take him behind the main three running backs in Harry at 105. Maybe I take DK if I need more wide receivers or Parris Campbell, but I take him at 105. And Damien Williams, if you're win now, 101. If probably maybe 102 because I'm going to kill Harry Drew. So let's just keep it a buck. Probably 102, 101. If I'm rebuilding, I'm probably fading that and we're going to 107, 108. Maybe 109 behind the two tight ends and Campbell and Metcalf. Just because if you're rebuilding, Damian Williams is really just a guy his entire career, and he could be gone. But if you're RB1 upside, no chance in heck are you passing that up.
It's Phillip Lindsay is as long as he. Okay, I'm gonna pull up his stat line from last year just to tell you the numbers.
Oh, I already know it was good, man. I tried to make a late season trade for this guy. I just don't trust that body. What is he, like 5'9", like 190? Remember Devontae Freeman and how everyone was so high on him? He could have a Devontae Freeman arc, but I'm all in for selling Lindsay. Granted, at 105, I actually think that's a pretty good value for a running back in a class that's low in running backs, although Darrell Henderson is slowly climbing up there with like the best landing spot if Gurley just dies or like doesn't play. Hopefully you don't die, Todd Gurley. I love you. Rest in peace, arthritis. Light a little bit of the candle there at the chapel. But I don't know. I take him at 105, but I'm just worried. But go ahead, tell me these stats. Inform me.
Okay. Well, okay, so I can't pull up for some reason all like his game logs, but I'll give you his most recent 5 for the final 5 weeks of the regular season. He had 14 attempts for 110 yards and 1 touchdown.
Not bad.
19 attempts, 157 yards, and 2 touchdowns.
That's against the Bengals, I think. I
Right.
might have faced them that week.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
14 attempts. This one's kind of rough. 14 attempts, 30 yards, but he had a touchdown, so that's helps a lot. Next week was even worse. 14 attempts, 24 yards. And then the final week of the regular season, he had 10 attempts for 46 yards. So
that last game.
Here's the thing. Who are we just talking about?
Royce Freeman?
Before that. Before we started on this topic, who was the running back we were talking about?
My good guy, Marlon Mack, who is from the same town as one of my great friends, Sarasota, Florida.
Marlon Mack. What did you say about Mack?
Inconsistent AF and can't catch.
Where would you take Marlon Mack in this rookie draft?
Rookie draft?
If he was in the rookie draft,
if
he was in this rookie draft like Phillip Lindsay is, where would you take him?
My order would go Harry, Jacobs, Montgomery, Mack, Sanders, Lindsay.
See, that's rough because
that's rough.
Mack
yeah.
He's basically they're the same type of player. They have big booms and big busts.
Oh yeah,
but
inconsistent.
But I feel like Mack I would take top 3. Lindsay I would take top 3 because those are those proven guys who can go out there and do it. And you said Royce Freeman will take touches away, you think?
I'm confident.
Let's be honest. Okay, Phillip Lindsay had 192 attempts last year. Let me check up where that ranks among all running backs. But 192 attempts.
Yeah, you can look that up, and I'll talk here a little more. I just don't Dynasty. It's a long-term outlook. I don't trust 5'8", 190 is the listed weight. So I was even being generous to this guy. I was being generous, and I was hating on him. 5'8", 190. I mean, I don't know. It's just going to be a committee there, and I'm telling you, he's overdrafted. And I said the same thing about Tariq Cohen once, especially once Jordan Howard's gone. I'm like, sell, and I feel just as confident. And they're kind of similar players. Granted, Lindsay can't catch. So
here's the numbers. Lindsay tied for 17th with Nick Chubb in the league for rushing attempts. He was 17th rushing attempts, 9th in yards. What about touchdowns, you ask? He was tied for 7th. Phillip Lindsay will, no matter how many touches you give him, he will put up numbers. He averaged about, over the weeks, I think that averages out to about 12 touches per week. You give him 10 to 12 touches a week, he will have those boom weeks, those bust weeks. It doesn't matter how many touches you give him, he will give you points every few weeks. He will give you huge points every few weeks. It doesn't matter how small he is. You look at him on tape. Watch Phillip Lindsay on tape. He plays so much bigger than he is. He's one of those guys that's not afraid to run up the middle. And I don't think with him being built that short at 5'8", even though he's only 119 pounds or 190 pounds.
119 pounds, that dude's dead. Holy crap.
190 pounds at 5'8", that's somewhat stocky. That's not a horrible weight to be at. And I feel like he will be fine. He's small, but I don't think he'll be hurt as much as some people think he will be.
Why do you think that? I'm just curious.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah, I'm holding. I'm trying to get my own stat here. Hold up.
Okay. You look at Frank Gore, Frank the Tank. Okay, everybody's like, "Wow, he's a bowling ball. He's a huge guy out in the field, right?"
Oh,
That's because he's
oh,
so short.
I know he's like 5'9",
5'9",
5'10".
210. 210 to 215.
20 pounds though.
And that's 20 pounds. But at the same time, you look at Frank Gore, you look at him out on the field, he looks huge. He looks like a bowling ball. He runs people over. He doesn't care. And even though he has 20 pounds on him,
that's a lot of
20
pounds.
pounds off of Frank Gore. I mean, he's sure he'd be worse, but he'd still be able to run people over. He still has that ability, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. So Phillip Lindsay will be fine. I think he'll do fine. I don't think he's going to be as injured as people assume he will be.
Here's my point: is I think this Devontae Freeman kind of arc. I already talked about it. So for me, I'm all overselling. I guess you could sell him a little higher. He does well this year. He could. But here's my point. So I pulled up Nick's video. Nick Urcolano, once again. Thank you. I don't mean to be stealing your video, but he pretty much just has a graph here of the Denver running backs in 2018. Yards, yak per like attempt created, I believe this is. Royce Freeman almost has a whole yard on him, right? Here's the more interesting thing. I'm not going to try to give it all away, but Phillip Lindsay had the third highest run blocking efficiency. Royce Freeman had the 33rd. That's a massive difference. That's like going from the top offensive line in the league to who's the worst offensive line in this league? Minnesota, Cincinnati, from the Colts, the Cowboys.
I believe the Texans were among the
to
worst
the Texans.
last year.
Yeah, so the Texans, Bengals, Minnesota, Seattle. Seattle's a little better now, but you know what I mean.
Right.
I think it's a massive difference, man. That's such a huge difference, and that's the same line. Freeman also had a 6% higher juke rate. He had better yards created per carry. Overall, he just created more. And those metrics are predictive. Yards created is predictive. I love you, Graham Barfield. Actually commented in one of my Instagram posts once over at the Fantasy Fellow, by the way. Feel free to check that out. But overall, I just think Royce Freeman's more talented, and that's going to show in the future.
I'm gonna be honest with you. When I was scouting them,
yep,
with Phillip Lindsay versus Royce Freeman. Royce Freeman, everybody was like, "Well, he's going to be a pretty good running back in the league. He's going to do pretty well." I had him ranked as a 3rd to 4th round running back. I didn't think he was going to be great coming out. I didn't like his game tape. I didn't like what he did on tape. I thought he didn't really follow his line that well. I thought he was more of like a guy that would go out there and try to create without following his offensive line. Phillip Lindsay, when I scouted a few games for him, he followed his line. He allowed his line to create for him, and then he followed that. So I think that's the difference between them. But here's the catch. Phillip Lindsay, I had him ranked as also as the 3rd to 4th round running back.
Yeah.
And just think, they were drafted, I think, 3-4 rounds Phillip Lindsay went. Lindsay went undrafted, right?
Oh yeah, man. Lived in his parents' basement.
Right. And then, but if I had him ranked around the same spot as I did Royce Freeman, so I think honestly, people are just a lot lower on Lindsay than they should be, just because he's small.
Yeah. Granted, the size has its own thing, but I want to move on here. We're now officially reached the hour mark. I'd like to thank everybody for listening in here. Here's our last question. Maybe one of the most important questions here for you Dynasty listeners about your rookie drafts. Common question here. David Montgomery or Miles Sanders? Start it off, say everything you want to say, and I'll go ahead and wrap us up with my thoughts, and then we'll say goodbye.
Montgomery, all the way.
Why?
It's not that I'm super high on Montgomery. It's that I'm not high on Sanders. Okay, you look at the situations that they're in, and on the Bears, you have Jordan Howard who left, but Jordan Howard was their RB1. Cohen took receptions away, sure, but Cohen really didn't run the ball. Jordan Howard was their runner. Jordan Howard ran the ball nearly every single rush they had.
Mm-hmm.
You have Montgomery going into that. He's going to be the RB. But the difference between Montgomery and Howard is I think Montgomery is a much better pass catcher than Howard. So I think he'll be able to even help in PPR leagues. He'll do really well. With Miles Sanders, look at that situation. Philadelphia. What's Philadelphia run the past for however many years? I can't even remember. A running back by committee. They have a committee approach every single year, it seems. And they have 4 guys on that roster who could be decent RB1s if they were given the chance. So it's not like Miles Sanders comes in immediately and is the best running back on that team. They have guys that can start. They just don't because they run a running back by committee approach. They're on the roster. I believe their RB4 is Wendell Smallwood. I think Smallwood could honestly, if given the chance on that roster, I feel like he could put up some decent fantasy numbers.
With a name like that?
but seriously, I loved Smallwood coming out. I loved his tape. But he's their RB4. And I feel like he could start. You have so much talent at running back on that roster. I think they have one of the better running back committees in the league. They have one of the best. They don't have any really top tier guys, but they have a ton of guys that will do great anyways.
Yeah.
And it's just he's going to be put into committee approach his first year, and you'd never know if he's going to escape that committee approach. You never know what Philadelphia will do because it seems every week in Philadelphia, a different running back is leading them. And it's just you look at Chicago, and Montgomery is going to be their lead back every single week. Sanders, you can't say that. You cannot definitively say that Sanders is going to be their lead back in any given week. He may never be their lead back. And it just depends on how he develops. But Montgomery is that guy who's going to be their lead back. No questions asked.
Yeah, I think so. And I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this point with just a couple arguments for both sides. For me, it's Montgomery 80% of the time, but they're close. Is that weird? Pretty weird. Just because I think Montgomery's going to return the value earlier. I was planning on actually drafting him in our rookie draft, the FFA League. Unfortunately, he was taken from me. That's cool. I got Miles Sanders. They're right next to me, right? They're right side by side. So that's cool. But I think Montgomery's going to turn the more immediate value. I mean, when Howard, Nagy really tried to make him a 3-down back, right? And he comes from Andy Reid, who likes to do one running back. Same thing as what's his name, Doug Peterson. So that's why I feel like the RB by committee is a little overrated, just because of all those backs. None of them were really that great. Ajayi was the best, can't catch. So Sanders is a great catcher, great receiver. Let's try that again. Overall, Montgomery, but I feel like his upside's a little skewed because they tried to make Howard that feature back before Cohen absolutely blew up and was incredible, right? And then when Mike Davis is there, and he could have a random 12 carry game if they're in the lead, so that also hinders Montgomery's upside. It's Montgomery for me, but I do think Sanders, come 2020, when all those backs are off the contract, he could really, really break out. And they spent a lot of draft capital on him compared to Jordan Howard. So overall, and he should be the immediate receiving back on that team. He's probably the best receiver, depending on Darren Sproles. I don't even know. Darren Sproles is like a fossil. Good guy, good player, but you know what I mean? He could really be good, especially come 2020 when we're looking these long-term outlooks. I also think Philly has an elite offensive line for years to come, even though it's a little older. Grabbed Andre Dillard in the first round. Bears, I feel like, will teeter off here throughout these years as they have to sign all these people and they don't have cap. So, but overall, I think we both agree Montgomery, right?
Right. Just real quick before we leave,
Yep.
I found another stat for Lindsay just while I was looking.
Oh, back to Phillip Lindsay. All right, quickly.
I just want to go back to Phillip Lindsay because I feel like he's underrated by a lot of people.
I feel he's overrated, but go on.
Out of the top 20 running backs in the league last season, the top 20 based on yards, overall yardage. There were 5 running backs, who one of them being Kareem Hunt, who didn't really, but Kareem Hunt was 20. So if you go to the top 19, there's 4 running backs right there overall that didn't fumble once. And you say Phillip Lindsay's that small guy, he's going to get roughed up, he's going to be roughed up and everything. He never fumbled. He didn't fumble a single time. For that small guy, he holds onto that ball really well. The amount of times looking at tape that he runs up the middle and still keeps control of the ball. He's going to be just fine. I feel like he'll do great.
All right, that's a fair point. I'm sure we'll have our bets on that. Well, I'll tell you, one of us is going to be right and one of us is going to be wrong. So I'm excited to see which one of that is. But I'd like to thank all of our viewers here at the Key 3 Dynasty podcast, the Dynasty Key 3. Name undetermined, but that does not matter because I already know we're going to have the best fans ever. We have some great people here coming on. We're going to have guests. We're going to have interviews. We're going to have so much stuff. So please, please, please stay tuned. Rate it, share it. We need your help to become big, become successful, but we're always going to stay true to ourselves. So that's all the time we have here today. Thank you so much. We love you all, and have a fantastic rest of your day.